get ready to be gripped by fear as we unravel the true horror stories about the survival on the Essex, the unexplained Dyatlov Pass mystery, and the exploration of the Pennhurst Asylum. These stories will leave you on the edge of your seat. A bone-chilling nightmare you absolutely cannot miss.
Abyss of the Ocean. Survival on the Essex. They say the ocean has a memory. And if that's true, then somewhere in its vast, fathomless depths, it remembers me and the horror I endured aboard the Whaleship Essex. The year was 1819. I was a young sailor, eager for adventure and filled with dreams of wealth from the lucrative whale oil industry. The Essex, captained by the skilled George Pollard Jr., was my ship, and she was a beauty. But little did I know, our voyage would become one of history's most harrowing tales of survival. It started off like any other whaling expedition. We sailed from Nantucket, Massachusetts, heading for the whaling grounds of the South Pacific. Months went by with great success. We were a well-oiled machine, hunting and processing whales with remarkable efficiency. Then, one fateful day, as I stood watch, I spotted it. An enormous sperm whale unlike any I'd ever seen. Its size was staggering, and its eyes. They held an intelligence, a knowing that sent shivers down my spine. Before I could fully process the sight, the beast charged our ship, its massive head aimed squarely at our port side. The impact was catastrophic. The Essex quaked, and the once sturdy ship began taking on water at an alarming rate. In the midst of chaos, Captain Pollard gave the order to abandon ship. We hastily launched the smaller whaleboats, salvaging what supplies we could. As I climbed into one of the boats, I took a final glance at the Essex. She was sinking, and that monstrous whale watched, almost contemplatively from a distance. With the ship gone, 20 of us found ourselves stranded in the middle of the Pacific. Our rations were meager. Hardtack, a little water, and a few other provisions. Captain Pollard devised a plan to sail for South America, thousands of miles away. Days turned into weeks. Hunger gnawed at us. Our water supply dwindled. The sun scorched our skin during the day, and the cold winds chilled us to the bone at night. Despair took root. Then, the unthinkable happened. Our food ran out. Days without sustenance turned to weeks. We drew lots, deciding the fate of one to save the many. It's a horror I can scarcely put into words. We did what we had to in order to survive. By the time we were finally rescued by another ship, the Dauphin, only 8 of us remained. Emaciated, sunburned, and haunted by the choices we had made, we were shadows of our former selves. I returned to Nantucket a changed man. The vast, merciless ocean had shown me its darkest face. The memories of those lost at sea and the agonizing decisions made in those lifeboats will forever be etched in my soul. I've hung up my sailor's hat, but the ocean's call is ever present. Sometimes in the quiet of the night, I can still hear the haunting blow of that monstrous whale, reminding me of the abyss from which I barely escaped.
Dyatlov Pass echoes in the snow. My name is Anatoly, and in the winter of 1990, I decided to undertake a solo trek across the Ural Mountains, specifically aiming to traverse the infamous Dyatlov Pass. My family thought I was mad. After all, that's where 9 experienced hikers mysteriously died in 1959, a case that remained unsolved and was the subject of endless conspiracy theories. But being a seasoned mountaineer and somewhat of a skeptic, I thought it would be the perfect challenge. The beginning of my journey was rather uneventful. The icy winds and deep snow made the journey tough, but nothing I hadn't faced before. I set up camp at the base of the mountain on my 3rd day, the same spot where the Dyatlov group had camped all those years ago. As night approached, I huddled in my tent, the cold seeping in. Just as I was about to drift into sleep, I heard it, a distant, eerie howling that wasn't quite animal, nor did it sound like the wind. It was a mournful, almost human wail. I emerged from my tent, flashlight in hand, scanning the surroundings. The beam revealed nothing but an endless stretch of snow and dense tree silhouettes. Assuming it was just the wind playing tricks on me, I tried to sleep, but sleep remained elusive. The howling grew louder, closer, and then I felt the ground tremble, ever so slightly, as though someone or something was approaching. Suddenly, my flashlight revealed fleeting shadows outside my tent. They were human figures, but they moved erratically, with unnatural agility. Panic surged through me. I considered packing up and leaving, but the figures surrounded my tent. Every so often, a face would press against the fabric, distorted and unrecognizable. Hours seemed to pass. Then, as the first rays of dawn broke, the figures vanished. I emerged from my tent to a scene of chaos. My equipment was strewn everywhere, footprints encircling my campsite. But these weren't normal footprints. They looked almost like bare feet, which made no sense given the freezing temperatures. Heart pounding, I packed up and started my descent, determined to leave this cursed place behind. Upon reaching the base, I met an elderly local. When I recounted my experience, he looked at me gravely and spoke of old legends, spirits of the mountains, angered by those who ventured into their domain. He believed I had encountered the restless souls of the Dyatlov group, still trapped in the very place they met their end. I returned home, shaken and with more questions than answers. The Dyatlov Pass wasn't just a challenging hiking spot. It was a place where the veil between our world and the next was thin, where echoes of a tragic past still lingered. To this day, I can still hear that haunting howl when the wind blows a certain way, a chilling reminder of the night I came face to face with the ghosts of Dyatlov Pass. Note, the Dyatlov Pass incident is a real unsolved mystery from 1959 where 9 hikers died under unclear circumstances. Many theories have been proposed over the years, from avalanches to military tests to more paranormal explanations. This account is a fictionalized representation inspired by those events for storytelling purposes.
Pennhurst Asylum, the echoing halls. My name is Elena, and I've always been fascinated with urban exploration. Abandoned places held stories, frozen in time, and I yearned to uncover them. That's how I found myself, along with my friends Jake and Mia, at the entrance of the Pennhurst Asylum in Pennsylvania, one chilly autumn evening. Pennhurst, opened in 1908 as an institution for the mentally and physically disabled, was notorious for its mistreatment of patients. It was shut down in 1987 after multiple allegations of abuse. Legend said the tormented souls of its past still lingered in its dilapidated halls. Walking in, the air was thick with a mix of mold and something else, something metallic. Jake joked that it was probably just rust, but Mia and I exchanged uneasy glances. There was an oppressive weight in the atmosphere. Our flashlights revealed decayed rooms, long-forgotten toys of children who once resided there, and rusted bed frames that spoke of torment and neglect. We walked in silence, each room telling its silent tale. That's when we heard it, a soft, whimpering cry echoing down the hallway. We froze. The whimpering grew louder, more distinct. It sounded like a child. Mia, always the bravest among us, suggested we follow the sound. Maybe an animal was trapped, she reasoned. But the closer we got, the colder the air became, our breaths turning visible. The whimpering led us to a room with a lone wheelchair, its wheels still turning slowly as if someone had just left it. On the floor was a faded photograph of a young girl, her eyes filled with sadness. Suddenly, the wheelchair began to move on its own, rolling towards us. We stumbled back in terror. The whimpering grew louder, more desperate, as if beckoning us. Mia, ever the skeptic, tried to rationalize. Maybe there's a draft or some logical explanation, she muttered, but her voice wavered with uncertainty. Jake, Ashley the Joker, was silent, his face pale. "We need to leave," he whispered. But as we turned to exit, the doors slammed shut on their own. Panic surged. We were trapped. The whimpering grew louder, turning into agonized cries, echoing all around us. Shadows danced on the walls, distorted figures of people in pain, reliving their torment. It felt like hours, but was probably mere minutes before the doors slowly creaked open again. We didn't wait. We ran, not looking back, driven by primal fear. Once outside, the weight lifted. The air was fresh, the night silent. But the scars of what we witnessed remained. Years have passed since that night. Mia, Jake, and I lost touch, each of us dealing with the trauma in our ways. But every year, on that fateful autumn evening, I find the same faded photograph of the young girl on my doorstep, a haunting reminder of the souls trapped in Pennhurst Asylum.